Oh. Good afternoon, Madfesters. My name is Dan Holmes, the Senior Director here at RTB House. Hey, thank you. It's my first time on stage here, but it's my third time at the event. So from past experience, I'm aware that some of you might be tipsy by now. I think that might help me because I've been given a pretty tough slot. Every man is boring compared to Richard, who's before me, and I'm certainly not as interesting as Jessica, who follows me. But while we're all waiting for her, I'd like to talk to you about the unseen potential of AI, and specifically how we can use it to understand exactly what people want. I'd like to start with a bit of audience participation, if that's okay with you. Two very simple questions. Hopefully we'll be able to use that to kind of outline the rest of the presentation. So the first question is, just a show of hands if you've ever seen an irrelevant ad. Amazing. Second question, if you've ever seen an online ad, but it's next to just unrelated content. Perfect. Now, that's great for this, but it's kind of crazy because we live in a world where generative AI can actually produce the highest relevancy that we've ever seen. So let's start with what we can see, what AI does that we can see. Now, only a few months ago, you'll remember that my LinkedIn feed, and probably yours as well, was full of people that were turned into like toy box characters or caricatures. I was actually told to use like tech bros and finance bros in here, and it might have been a little bit more funny, but didn't have time to change the deck. And on a daily basis, we can see interactions between chatbots and customers. I'll take you back a year when the DPD chatbot AI actually turned against its master, went a little bit rogue. And then I use AI. I use AI for bedtime stories for my kids. Quickly moving on from that, but 5 minutes bedtime stories for Percy and Quinn include zombies, unicorns, honey, whatever we've done during that day. I sit back and I watch Gen AI work its magic. But while it's amazing we can see that Gen AI can build the narrative and sketch the visuals, the real power lies within using it to read the room, or in our case specifically, read the internet and find out which room our ads should actually appear in. And that's kind of the unseen AI that we are dealing with. For example, our company, we use deep learning artificial intelligence to target users, understand their behavior, get them back to your websites to purchase or convert, however you want to call it. But our clients, they're not aware of this. They don't understand how this works. And today, I'm going to share with you a little bit of the magic that happens and put the last nail in the coffin of spray and pray advertising. So the older heads here will remember that there are three waves of digital advertising. The first wave, back in the 90s, just standard demographic advertising. Pretty much just show car ads to males between 25 and 45 years old. And then moving forward to wave two, we had keyword advertising, for about 20 years, or variations of keyword advertising. That was up until just a few years ago, really. Show car ads to people that had searched for car. But now we're on wave three. Wave three is the now. It's intent and understanding. Can we understand the true intent of a user and the true intent of an article? For example, show child car seat ads to someone that's reading an article about family cars on the weekend, even if they've never actually searched for child car seats before. The now is using AI to understand those signals, to understand true intent of a user and the true content of an article. And when you know those two signals, you can actually run hyper-targeted display campaigns. And as we've established at the beginning of this, the majority of ads out there are actually low relevance articles. As an example here, we have an ad for a car. There's nothing wrong with this ad. It's quite typical for the industry. But it's alongside an article about sandals, which is totally irrelevant. But why does it matter? How does that impact the marketers out there? Well, because you have a creative team that has built an amazing, beautiful campaign, but the ads are showing up against the wrong audiences. For example, here we have a lovely looking banner for clothes, for suits, but it's alongside an article about a lawsuit. Now, the keyword matching here is actually, okay, but the intent and the content, they just don't match. And then for your branding teams, the content of the article is super important for your brand perception. Look up here, we have a banner for cute and cuddly dog jumpers. Now, I have a dog, I love dogs, but after reading this article about aggressive dogs, I'm going to have pretty low sentiment for this ad and the brand behind them. If I was Amazon, I wouldn't be very happy that I'd had this ad space alongside this article. And then, sticking with dogs, the big dogs, the CMOs in your company, they're fighting, or their media budget is fighting with one arm tied behind its back. Again, we have an article here. The intent and the content just don't match. Just because I'm reading an article about Pope Francis, it doesn't mean that I'm interested in cross-shaped necklaces. But now we know the problem, is there a solution? Can we match relevant and true intent from a user as well as relevant content and true intent of an article? And the answer is yes to that. But before I tell you about that side of things, I'd like to sneak in some information about us, about RTB House. RTB House, we're a next-generation display technology. We're powered by deep learning artificial intelligence, and we focus on first-party data and incremental growth. A few years ago, our core product was retargeting, but we've moved into the prospecting space and the brand awareness space, having great success over many verticals around the world. It's true that we was entered into the market quite late, but that actually gave us the opportunity to use kind of the most innovative tech available, which I'm going to come on to now. So we'll go back to the question that was asked. Is it possible to match true intent of a user as well as true content and context of an article? And the answer was yes. We developed a product called IntentGPT. To understand what IntentGPT is, I have to get a little bit technical, but you can probably tell I'm no tech guy. I'm far from it. I speak before I think. I've been told a million of times to do that the other way around. TBS, if my friend Tyzak is in the audience down there. But luckily for us, we have a HQ that is full of geniuses, and we can learn all this stuff from. So there's two parts to this. The first part is deep learning. Now, 3 years ago, I would need 10 minutes and a few different slides to explain what deep learning is. But we live in an age now where it's used for quite a lot of things. Tesla's driverless cars, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Gemini's, Google's Gemini. But if you're not aware of what deep learning AI is, I'll just give you a little bit of spiel about it now. So, deep learning AI is the most advanced form of artificial intelligence available. It's approximately 2,500 times more powerful than its predecessor, machine learning. It's basically a human brain or a neural network, but it operates 1 million times faster. It can make sense of big chaotic data, and it can use that data to predict outcomes in an instant. The second part is large language models, or LLMs, which is incredibly difficult to say when you're nervous. But these algorithms, they're deep learning algorithms, and they're designed for natural language processing. Now, to put that quite simply, it can basically understand natural human language, and it also can generate natural human language. Now, when you combine these two pieces of tech, you've got IntentGPT, and IntentGPT, that solves that fundamental challenge of the internet, which is to actually understand the true intent expressed on the open web. It's been trained within an inch of its electronic life. It's constantly learning, reading, understanding billions of web pages on the internet. And once we understand those web pages, we can target high-value users more appropriately. Firstly, is the article relevant? Secondly, is the context and content of that article relevant? And thirdly, is the user relevant and showing the right user intent? Now, typical advertising only ticks one of those boxes, whereas IntentGPT actually ticks all three. Article to product to user. To simply put it, if I'm a buyer of watches, or I'm looking to buy a watch, and I'm reading an article about watches, I'm going to be shown banners that include watches. But it doesn't just stop there. It can even fix categorization mistakes in your feeds. There's an example here on the screen where there's a beach chair that's sneaked into one of our US clients' feeds with clothing, but we've identified that before that's gone out and put in a banner. Once again, saving relevancy, increasing efficiency. And this is my last example, my second from last slide about IntentGPT. But we have an article here about washing machines and some examples again on the side. So on the left-hand side, on the top, IntentGPT turned off, washing machine article, and we've got like standard electronic products in the banners. Whereas on the bottom right, you can see IntentGPT is turned off. We're matching washing machines with washing machines in the banners. It's not the sexiest of subjects to finish on, but the numbers are coming up next. Now, this product has been rolled out globally for us. We've run about 20 million different banners on URLs. We're matching 240 million products per day, and it's available in 49 different languages. So we have a pretty good gauge on the performance so far. And that is 44% uplift in engagement. It's absolutely massive considering this early stage in its product lifespan, and it's just the beginning. That's it from me. I'm not going to take any questions on stage, mainly for fear that I don't know the answer. I hope you haven't found it too boring. If you have, I can assure you that the team are not, and we would welcome you over to the RT Powerhouse stand for a conversation. Thank you for listening.
One question?
One question.
I've got one question. This is from me. It's from me.
Yeah.
You showed those slides of ads appearing across against the wrong article, and it struck me as something I saw 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And we all know this is wrong. You say, we know CMOs are worried about it. We know, as you've just shown, protect it to make sure it doesn't happen. Why are we still seeing this? What's not changing?
Well, what's not changing is that we're using something called deep learning AI. Without deep learning AI, you can't actually have this innovative form of technology, this hyper-targeting. It can't tell, if you're not using deep learning AI, you can't tell the true user intent, and you can't know the true intent of the article. So this is, fast forward, this technology is incredible.
Well, amazing. I think you should all go and see RGPS Complex is going on. An amazing presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Really good.